What's going on, friends? It's Anton Daniels, and I gotta have a conversation with you guys about Tiege Hanley because you see how the sun is hitting me. This is no finesse, no makeup, no filters, no none of that. This is 100% Tiege Hanley. I use it in the morning as soon as I get up, right after I pray and brush my teeth, jump in the shower, and I'm hitting the streets because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So even though they're giving you 40% off your first order, 20% off for life, even though you may get a free gift, forget all that, right? Because we would do this even if it was full price because it's worth that much. I'm in the streets, I'm kicking it with people when I see Dusties everywhere. You don't want to be them. You want to separate yourself. And the way that you separate yourself is self-care. Ladies get it for the fellas. Fellas don't wait for the ladies to get it for you. I'm about to hit the streets right now and I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling great. I mean, I already got confidence, but to have that extra boost of confidence, knowing that you've taken care of yourself and you set yourself apart from all of the rest of the sheep that's walking around making bad decisions on a daily basis. And it's reflected in their actions. It's reflected in the products that they use. It's reflected in the people that they follow. And so if you're trying to level up, if you're trying to make sure that you look good, they're going to send you the pack. They're going to give you all of the instructions on how you're supposed to use it. Then make sure you get your Tiege Hanley. Again, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. Get your free gift. Make sure you tap in with your boy Anton Daniels because Unc is never going to lead you wrong. I would never have you use a product that I don't use myself. Again, they've been rocking with me for a long time. Make sure you get your Tiege Hanley. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. Thank you for tuning in for another edition of the Millionaire Morning Show. I am your host, Anton Daniels, and I am officially working from home today. I don't know if I want to give myself a round of applause or not, but it is Friday, November 22nd in 2024, year of our Lord. And life is absolutely good. So for those of you that are just tuning in or you missed a couple of different shows, don't worry about it. I got you. First, hit a like for the algorithm. Secondly, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you've been here more than once, you should already be subscribed because you need to get notifications that we go live every single day. Every single weekday, we go live. We don't miss. We run it up. This is, what episode is this? Let me look at this real quick. This is episode, I believe, 237 of season 4. 237th episode this year, which means that you omit the weekends, but in a general sense, we don't miss. We make sure that we run it up. All right. So for the next several weeks, I will be live streaming from here. Yes, I will be live streaming from here because my studio is going to be under construction. And so while we make sure that we get that taken care of, we will be still doing a show. We do not miss. And yeah, man. So capital investments, preparing for next year. So everything is good. What's up, friends? What's up? What up? What up? Y'all said city skyline is looking good. Yeah, it's dope. Um, I'm looking at Canada. That's the GM building. For those of y'all that may not be familiar, let me show y'all the city skyline. So that is GM right there. These are the cranes that are doing construction. That is Canada. All of that over there is Canada. This is the Detroit River. This is the city behind me. This is the new Hudson's building. And then it's a lot going all around me. So I am downtown. I am literally on the river, waterfront. And this is where we do our show. This is where I stay. This is where I live. And this is where we be doing the Millionaire Morning Show for the next several weeks. So what's up, friends and family? How y'all feel? Everything good? Everything good? Y'all ready to get started with the show? Well, before we get started with the show, I got to read the Super Chats, Cash Apps, and I got to do a little bit of housekeeping. So let's get that out of the way. I have not actually labeled the show, so I'll do that when we going through quick hits. But thank y'all for tuning into After Hours last night. That was awesome. Let me acknowledge the Cash Apps and then Super Chats, and then we're going to go ahead and get it popping. So shout out to Caesar Cannon says salute. What up, Caesar? What up to Dylan KO says 80 dropping gems on the way out. That was gold. Those was yesterday. ESDC is in the building today. Mike that dude with the 10 ball. And then Adrian Teal says you are a great content creator. Thank you everybody that held me down. I appreciate y'all. I also want to encourage y'all to make sure y'all get y'all Tiege Hanley 40% off your first order plus 20% off for life. And then on top of that, I would love for you guys to make sure you get your tickets. December 14th, come and kick it with your boy in Detroit. It's going to be an absolutely awesome show. And then last but not least, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. All right. Let me read some of these super chats, and then we're going to go ahead and get started with quick hits. Shout out to Miss Crow T. Shetty. I appreciate you for the super sticker. Thank you, thank you, thank you, my friend. P. Shank says, good morning, AD. The panel in the chat on last night's show was so funny regarding how Jasmine Crockett body shape. Oh, my God. We're going to go over that today because I got some thoughts from a political perspective, and my own personal thoughts is deeper than what we went over today. Jonathan Beasley says, prayers that my wife's health improves and finances. God bless you, Jonathan. Everything will go well in Jesus' name. God bless your wife. Let his will be done. Life is going to be awesome for you no matter what the situation is, but don't pray and worry. That's all I got to say about that. All right. We're not going to hold over it. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. We're just going to get to it. All right. All right. Y'all ready to get started with the show? Y'all ready to get started with the show? Let's get it popping. I do want to let y'all know that I love y'all and I appreciate y'all, and y'all are the greatest audience on the face of this earth. But let's go ahead and get started with the show, y'all. So quick hits. Quick hits is a segment of the show that we don't necessarily think that we have to dedicate an entire segment to each individual subject, but we definitely want to keep y'all in the loop on what's going on in these streets. First things first, a woman was shot in the head in Chicago with a bullet that just went through the window. Now, what I'm questioning is, was this random or was this intentional? Check it out.
First breaking news on the south side. Police say a woman was seriously hurt when she was hit by a bullet that came through the front window of a home. It happened just after 6:30 in the West Chatham neighborhood near 80th and Princeton. The 47-year-old was shot in the head and is in critical condition at Christ Hospital. So far, no one's been arrested.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I think that it's stupid as usual.
Was hit by a bullet.
And it's unfortunate because on a regular basis, we get these reports coming out of Chicago saying that some random bullet, some gun with switches, some woman was killed, some police officer was shot, something is happening in Chicago, and it doesn't matter who you petition or how many people go and protest of what's happening over there in that city. The legislators are not listening to you. They do not support the police force. And let me also give a round of applause. I'm not going to give a round of applause, but let me give some credit to the police officers over in Chicago, because it's very difficult when you're understaffed by over 2,000 police officers and you get no support from the mayor. And so they don't support the current mayor and the current administration. You know who suffers? Both the police officers and the civilians and the residents, because you know who's going to still get paid and you know who's going to still have their police protection by over 30 to 40 agents or 30 to 40 officers? Brandon Johnson. And so all of this goes back up to the top. All of it goes back up to leadership. Even when you have problems within your own household, usually it's the person at the top. When you have problems within a company, usually it's the person at the top. Politics is the only place where I've seen people blame other people for the problems that they've created in their own city. And so I encourage the people over there in Chicago to make sure that y'all continue to hold Brandon Johnson accountable. Don't worry, you got a few more years with him in your office. But it's unfortunate that this is the thing that y'all have to go through on a regular basis, all because you wanted to continue to vote for a person that had a mohawk and they voted blue. All right. In addition to that, a man was arrested in New York for slashing somebody on the Upper West Side. Yeah, the Upper West Side of New York. Check it out.
Well, we're following some breaking news tonight. An arrest in connection with that slashing of a tourist on the Upper West Side.
That's right. The suspect's mother helping police capture her own son. Stephanie Rattini joins us live with what we know about the suspect tonight. Stephanie.
Good evening. Well, I was there as he spit at the media just a short time ago. Police sources telling Fox 5 News his mother saw him on TV and tipped off police.
Would you have flicked your mother? Would you have flicked your mother? That's for all of you. You do it for the click, right? Would you do?
This is 25-year-old Joshua Zinberg. He's facing several charges, including attempted murder in the second degree, assault in the first and second degree, and criminal possession of a weapon. He was arrested in front of his Upper West Side apartment building less than 24 hours after police say he attacked a tourist, not far from his own home. Sources tell Fox 5 News information from his mother helped police.
Why do how come every time these guys get arrested or they having to do the perp walk, the walk where they basically have to walk and get arrested in front of the cameras and they got to go and get into the paddy wagon and stuff. Why do they always spit? Is that like a and again, I always it's just the way that I am, it's the way that I trained. Is that a spiritual thing? Every single one, every person, it don't matter if you're a migrant, don't matter if you're a regular person, if you have monstrous behavior or you get caught up in something that you're not supposed to do, usually it's tied to assault or something as far as hurting somebody or slashing somebody or killing somebody or some grisly crime, something that has to do with blood in it. Every single person that I see do the perp walk, all of them spit on their way out the door. All of them go to "Hatil, tia, tia." Is that symbolic or something? Honestly, I'm just trying to understand. Is that symbolic or something? Why is every person that's getting arrested, all of them spit? All of them spit. I don't get that.
Leading up to the arrest, the NYPD says the victim was walking on 86th Street near Columbus Avenue when the suspect came from behind. You can see the suspect holding an object in surveillance images. That's the knife. Police say the victim is a tourist from Denmark. This couple, tourists from Italy. These are things that it's better if they didn't happen, she said, but it happens everywhere, he added. For people who live on the Upper West Side, this all hits close to home. And for New Yorkers, it's yet another reminder of how unpredictable things can be in the city. The attack comes just days after a homeless man with mental health issues allegedly went on a stabbing spree, killing 3 people.
There's been more things recently. We live in a big city. We have to be conscious of our surroundings, and it definitely feels.
Why don't this type of stuff happen in Tokyo? Just because you're living in a big city does not mean that you're supposed to have crime. And when I was in Tokyo, the streets was clean, the people was cool, all of the women was fit. It was just a completely different culture, and they have more people, if I'm not mistaken, than over in New York.
Feels a little bit closer to home.
You're hearing about it more and more. You're hearing about people, tourists getting attacked in Central Park right here.
Police say the victim was taken to the hospital, his ear and cheek severely slashed and his jaw dislocated as a result of the attack. Detectives said the suspect took off on foot and then got into his orange-colored vehicle and disappeared. The vehicle, now at the 20th Police Precinct, where Joshua Zimberg, now in police custody, spit at the media as he was escorted by police.
I don't understand that. I am very, very confused about that. But anyways, on the more important news, remember Jussie Smollet? Absolutely, positively ingrained in our minds, not only from the bad decisions that he was making in order to make a false report and act like that was a hate crime that was being alleged against him by 2 white men, and it wound up being 2 really, really dark Africans that he paid to come at him on a dark night, on the coldest night in Chicago, and 2 in the morning when he decided to go get a Subway sandwich, a fake Subway sandwich. Well, that guy that Dave Chappelle talked about that had the noose around his neck. Well, guess what? He had been convicted. They did hold him accountable. And for some reason, this is still in our news, and this is supposed to be dead, but the conviction was overturned by the Illinois Supreme Court. Check it out.
The conviction of actor Jussie Smollet tossed out today, nearly 5 years after a jury found him guilty of falsely reporting he'd been the victim of a hate crime. Illinois' highest court finding the state wrongly prosecuting the former star of the hit series Empire in 2021 after prosecutors agreed to drop criminal charges.
If this was the regular Joe down the street, this case would never even have gone to trial.
The case dominating headlines, with Smollet reporting 2 men brutally attacked him in downtown Chicago, yelling racist and homophobic slurs, even tying a noose around his neck.
That's how you knew that it was a lie. Hey, he was still walking around on camera with the noose still around his neck, acting confused.
Widespread sympathy until the police arrested 2 brothers who said that Smollet paid them to stage the attack. Smollet then indicted.
And he did this all in the name of self-promotion.
But Smollet maintained he wasn't lying.
I would not be my mother's son if I was capable of one drop of what I've been accused of.
The state's attorney's office soon dropped the charges with a non-prosecution agreement and community service. Kim Fox, who leads that office but recused herself, was criticized at the time, but says what happened next, the appointment of a special prosecutor and a fresh indictment, ultimately leading to Smollet's conviction and sentence of 30 months probation, was clearly wrong.
The politics and the snowball of this case, I think, had people taking positions that were really upending criminal justice law as we know it.
The court today not weighing the evidence against him, but unanimous it would be fundamentally unfair for the state to renege on its deal. The charge is now dismissed once and for all. Laura Jarrett, NBC News.
Black people win again. Let me give y'all a round of applause. Black people won again. Please listen. At the very least, never, ever, 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 don't ever come to me talking to me about how y'all systematically oppressed ever again. Don't ever talk to me about how y'all are systematically oppressed ever in life again. This guy got 30 months probation and he still fought it. And he had better lawyers than the YSL charges, the YSL trial attorneys. And this guy got his conviction overturned and thrown out by the Illinois Supreme Court. And it was something that he went down with the lie and then rose back up with the lie. I don't know if I've ever seen in my life somebody, especially of color, that can stage an attack on themselves and then overcome the obstacles that comes along with the system holding them down, and then to get their conviction overturned. It's insane. I don't want to hear nothing. Don't ever in your life sit there and tell me about how y'all need to be running in the Victim Olympics and how things are so wrong for you. I don't want to hear. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, that is your quick hits. Let me go ahead and pivot really quickly. I'm going to read the super chats, but I'm going to leapfrog off of that, and I'm going to skip the order that I actually wanted to do this show because it's important for me to go directly over to Jasmine Crockett. Matter of fact, I'm going to read the super chats and the cash apps in a minute because I don't even want to get distracted. Let's pivot for a second, right? And I want to talk about Jasmine Crockett. Now, Jasmine Crockett, for those of you that may not be familiar with her, is a part of the AKAs. Now, that's not an indictment on AKAs in particular, but it matters in this situation because of Kamala Harris. Now, Jasmine Crockett was one of the biggest advocates for Kamala Harris, and she was standing by her side, and they vowed to get her elected. Why? Well, you can point to a number of things. Maybe because they said that Kamala Harris was a black woman, although Candace Owens would probably debate that. Or you could say because they were a part of the same organization and being AKAs. Or you can say just because she was a woman. Either way, identity politics played a huge role in the support from Jasmine Crockett, which I believe personally, and this is just my own personal thoughts, I tend to believe personally is discriminatory because their preference is based off of things that doesn't make you best for the job, is based off of their affiliation and their bias against other people and for those that look like them or those that are a part of the organization that they serve. Now, let's not get it confused. I am not against networking. I absolutely believe that you should give preference based off of networking. And so the organization matters, but when it comes to public service, that's a completely different thing, right? If that was applicable when it comes to private business or your own personal business or whatever, cool. However you want to market yourself, however you deal with it, that's just what it is. But when it comes to public service and servants, we have to remove our bias, right? And we have to make sure that we execute on the orders of the people. Remember, these people are not your boss. When we talk about the President of the United States of America, when we talk about Congress, when we talk about the House, when we talk about local mayors, governors, all of these people are in nominated positions because you vote for them and you pay for their salary. So that would mean that we're their boss. So if I'm Jasmine Crockett's boss or even let's just go all the way up into the President of the United States of America and Congress in general, you would have to say that based off of how people vote, that's what we want them to execute on. So they need to surround themselves with people that more closely align with the thing that the people want. If I want and I voted for a guy based off of immigration, then I would expect for him to hire Tom Homan. If I want and I, want the federal government to not tax us and to be more efficient with the way that they spend their money, then I'm absolutely in support of Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk heading up the Department of Government Efficiency. But in the case of Jasmine Crockett, let's bring it back because, again, this is leapfrogging off of the idea that she's proposing or advocating against the idea that Black people and Black women in particular are being oppressed, even though she is elected to one of the highest offices in the land and probably is going to be a lifetime member of that, even though I think that the Congress and several other branches need term limits. She's still preaching about Black people being oppressed and specifically targeting white men as a result of it. Well, let's hear what she has to say.
Yep. Okay, Ms. Crockett.
So many of you know that I practice law, but some of you don't realize that I actually was a business major out of Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. And the emphasis that I got in my business degree was on finance. And as I traveled the country campaigning this election cycle, one of the things that I talked about was this idea that in finance, we always promote this idea of diversity. If you know anything about a portfolio, the one thing that you want to do is make sure that it's as diverse as possible, because at times certain stocks will perform better than others, and they will exemplify various strengths and weaknesses. And together, a diverse portfolio is usually what any good finance person would promote. They wouldn't.
Now, her goal in this conversation, because again, I want to deep dive a little bit deeper on the Millionaire Morning Show. We always bring it back down to the money. That's why it's called the Millionaire Morning Show. Even when it comes to politics, even when it comes to business, even when it comes to crime, where is the money talk in this? Well, Jasmine Crockett is setting the foundation. She's using her college education, her high school education, her middle school education to execute on a few principles. And the one thing that she's doing is she's putting together her thesis and her hypothesis. And the foundation of her argument is based off of the idea that she studied finance. I said, okay, well, this is right up my alley. We going right down the right path, right? She studied finance. She says, look, the best finance managers or anybody that's in this industry will tell you that you have to have a diverse portfolio in order to be successful. You have to have a diverse portfolio in order to be successful. Okay, Anthony D, let's talk about it. Anton, I'm new to the channel for the most part, and I'm gonna get into Jasmine Crockett. I'm new to the channel for the most part. I'm no bleeding liberal, but you don't think Black people on a whole aren't disadvantaged? No, absolutely not. Nito, no. Tell me, help me to understand how Black people today are disadvantaged. You may be disadvantaged from your cultural norms. You may be disadvantaged for your own personal choices. I see the fact that y'all keep voting blue inside of your own cities and y'all advocated for defunding the police. And so you have to live in an environment where you're not protected because you voted for it. You keep voting people in the office that's not in your best interest. You keep leaning on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I see the fact that y'all keep picking degrees and fields that's based off of liberal arts and communication and African American studies instead of going into STEM fields. If you're disadvantaged in 2024 going into 2025, it's because your mama put you in that position. So you should either hold her accountable or it's because of your own personal choices. You're no more disadvantaged than anybody else. You're no more. Whenever you can say we've had a Black president, we have Black billionaires, we have Black Congress members, we have Black House members. I am sitting here in this penthouse overlooking the city, staring down at white people that are building the hotel next to me. I sit at the best seats. I deal with the best people. I can go anywhere I want to go. I can fly where I want to fly, and there's nobody that's limiting me from working as much as I want to work. If you want to sit here and tell me that I'm disadvantaged, I am from inner city Detroit, and I've been able to become what I become, I don't want y'all feeling offended because I'm that dude. I've been able to do what I want to do as a result of my own hard work, and you're telling me that we're disadvantaged? In one generation, in less than a half a generation, I've been able to change the trajectory of my family, and you're telling me that we're disadvantaged? Interesting. Look, this is why you disadvantaged to go. We's is, boss. We's is at a disadvantage. You not at the bottom with us. You mother effing right. I'm not gonna be at the bottom with you. I'm gonna be right here at the top, staring down in my penthouse, trying to figure out how I can make my next $1 million and bring my bag chasers with me. Use disadvantage the GOAT because use stills reason as a third grade level. All of the libraries is free. Every single library. I have not seen a price of admission to get into the library. I have not seen anybody. What is the last book that you've read? And don't go Googling one. We is not disadvantaged because you have an opportunity to do whatever you want to do when you want to do it. You didn't go to the library. You went over there and played Xbox. Ain't no wheeze is. I'm not going to be right there with you. Absolutely not. Because the goal was to get out of the hood. The goal wasn't to stay there and then wallow in there with you. Before you sit here and tell me about how disadvantaged you are, I'm going to need you to go ahead and get a book and learn how to speak proper English. Now, back to what I was saying. She's sitting there trying to justify and set the precedent by saying that any finance manager would tell you that you need to have a diversified portfolio. And that is a lie. Because diversification needs context. You could diversify how you invest your money, but as far as your portfolio itself, if you study the rules of Warren Buffett, who is the most famed investor, and Charlie Munger, some of the most famed investors of all time, what they will tell you is if you find a good 2 or 3 companies, even if it's just dedicated in a specific industry, why would you take money out of something that is performing well, that you truly understand, and put it into something just to say that you're diversified? Diversification and protection does not help you get rich. What it does is it prevents you from actually making progress if you really do want to get rich. Why would I take money out of Microsoft over the last 20 to 30 years, and it's been the most transformational and made more millionaires than everyone? If you look at most people that get rich, they get rich off of one thing. If you look at most people that get rich, they get rich off of one thing. They have an expertise, and then to make sure that they've protected themselves, then they make sure that they take advantage of the tax breaks in other industries. So I'll give you an example. You can generate a lot of revenue off of being whatever it is that you're great at: basketball player, content creator, maybe you started a business, so on and so forth. And so what you do is you start to leverage the tax code. So I may then take a lot of my profits and put it into real estate because I understand that there's tax benefits that come with real estate, and my ability to be able to pass it on to my daughter based off of some of the laws that's in my state would make it conducive for me to put money into that and then to reduce what I would give to the federal government legally in taxes. So I'm going to go into this industry, and then I'm going to take profits out of that industry because I see the changing of the tide, not necessarily because I'm trying to diversify. Diversification is largely misunderstood because people don't understand the context. And so it's easy for somebody that says, well, I took finance. Well, tell me how many businesses that you built. Tell me and help me to understand exactly how the tax code works for you. Tell me how that helps you when it comes to hiring people. Help me to understand exactly what that means when it comes to realized and unrealized gains, right? How should I pivot and how should I leverage my portfolio in order to draw from it so that I can then make more purchases, and y'all trying to close these loopholes that allow for me to be able to pass on my wealth to my children? And the premise that she's using is flawed because it doesn't apply to this circumstance. And you can't then justify diversification as a way for you to continue to be successful and then use that when it comes to people that can't control how it is that they were born. So her premise, her thesis, her hypothesis Her proposed ideals and her ideologies are flawed because she does not understand. You can go to school as much as you can, as much as you want to. But if you don't know how to apply these same principles and you don't know how it works in the real world, then you really can't use that as a justification for how you're going to advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity when it comes to your portfolio is much different when it comes to diversity when it comes, when people are coming into an organization. I don't want to hire you just because you look different. I want to hire you because you're the best person for the job. The same way that I don't want to put you into my portfolio just because you are a different company. I want to put you in my portfolio because you're going to perform the best. Even if you're going to diversify in your portfolio, you want to have the best companies, not just have a bunch of different stuff just for the sake of having different things. That's how you lose a whole lot of money. But let's see her make her pitch based off of this flawed thesis and hypothesis. And remember that this is a person that y'all voted into office. This is who you voted into represents you. You voted this woman in to represent you, meaning that she is a reflection of the people that voted for her.
Promote that you solely invest in vanilla wafers, believing that that is going to be the strongest portfolio, but instead they may want to add some chocolate cake and some Twinkies into the mix to make sure that we have the best portfolio, because there will be different preferences by different people, and again, there will be different strengths. But as I sit here and I think about what we say and what I'm hearing as it relates to diversity when it comes to anything outside of making money, and to be clear, we are losing GDP every time we try to push back on this idea of diversity, because all of us bring something different to the table. But you consistently said over and over the word oppression, and every time that you said it, it was almost as if I was hearing nails on a chalkboard, because it seems like you don't understand the definition of oppression, and I'd ask you to just refer to Google to help you out. Oppression is the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control. That is the definition of oppression. And so as I sit here as a Black woman who practiced civil rights, let me tell you, the reason that my colleagues wanted to make sure you understood the same Black history that your side of the aisle wants to delete out of classrooms is because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country.
I want y'all to remember what she's saying. And the reason that I pause it in certain places is because I want that to sink in. This is not a speech for anybody. It's a speech against white people. This is not a speech for anybody. This is a speech against white people. I just want y'all to take it in for a minute.
You tell me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you are going to go and work. We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression. We didn't ask to be here.
Well, I wonder if we ever going to go and ask for reparations from the Africans that captured you and sold you over here in the first place. I wonder if they ever going to do that. Do we ever go and hold people accountable that actually sold you to be a part of the transatlantic slave trade? I'm always wondering about that. Anyways, let's continue.
We're not the same migrants that y'all constantly come up against. We didn't run away from home. We were stolen. So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like, and don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed, that y'all are the ones that are being harmed. That's not the definition of oppression. You tell me the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment that you've had, and we can have a conversation.
You could start with Exodus.
This is what I'm wondering as we explore this, y'all. This is what I'm wondering, all right? At what point do we let go? Because I don't know anybody personally I've met a lot of people. I've met literally tens of thousands of people in my lifetime. Done shows, coaching sessions, kicked it with people, run into people on a regular basis. This is what I'm trying to figure out. And I do know that there were black people that owned slaves also, but that's a completely different conversation. We don't want to get into a history lesson. Yes, there were black people. Some of the first slave owners in this place were black people. But like I said, this is what I'm wondering. In 2024, 24, not 1865, not 1758, not 1636, in 2024, at what point, because again, I don't know anybody, not one person in 2024 going into 2025 that was in slavery, that picked cotton, that was sold to somebody else. What year? Give me a year that we no longer gonna sit here and run in the Victim Olympics. Just give me a year. Just give me a year. Give me 1 year. Give me a time frame that we're gonna sit here and say, you know what? All right. So we're gonna get all of our anger out in this generation and the next generation. Is it 21, 24? Is it 21, 24? $20.45? What year? The year 3000? The year after Jesus returns, 2200? At what point will y'all say, all right, you know what? I don't have no more excuses to actually go to school, do my work, stop smoking weed, don't open my legs up and getting pregnant, and then advocate for the deletion of babies so that we can use that as a form of contraception. 3184? I don't think that anybody over here will ever stop running in the Victim Olympics. Another 100 years? I don't think so. Look, I think that in 2200, you're going to still be seeing the Jasmine Crockett of then, except for she gonna name herself Hasmine instead of Jasmine. They're still going to be talking about how they're victims and how they're oppressed. They're still going to be talking about how they're victims and how they're oppressed. Everybody gonna be in slept with everybody. Everybody is gonna be mutts. Everybody gonna look the same. BBLs is gonna be crazy. All of that type of stuff, right? And everybody is still going to sit here and talk about how they're oppressed. Every single person.
Final thing that I will say on this particular issue, two things. There is an article from The Guardian, and it is a little old. It's from 2021, so I apologize. But it said that back then, just 3 years ago, white men represent 30% of the population, but 62% of office holders. These are the issues that we are constantly looking at and recognizing and trying to say, is this just? I can't even tell you how many white men have served in this chamber, but I can tell you that I am only the 55th black woman to be elected to Congress. And so when you
should only be 54 at least.
Want to talk about history and pretend as if it was so long ago, it wasn't. Because again, I am just number 55. Finally, when we start to talk about what do these numbers do, as we're trying to say that diversity, equity, and inclusion is the problem, the reality is that when it comes to financial performance, companies with more diverse workforces are more likely to outperform their competitors. Companies in the top quartile for racial diversity are 35% more likely to outperform their peers on profitability. Companies with diverse executive teams are 25% more likely to generate greater profits. Diverse companies earn 2.5 times higher cash flow per employee. Diversity works. And until you can show me data that says otherwise, I think that we need to go back to being a country that listens to experts and gets out of our feelings and recognizes, again, that racism is real in this country, and until we stop.
And it starts with you. It starts with you. I cannot tell you how many times that I hear people on a regular basis sit here and claim racism and are some of the most privileged people that I've ever seen in my entire life. Sunny Holston is one of them. Don't worry about it. We'll get to her shortly. Let me go ahead and read some of these super chats because I just wanted to share that with you guys to make sure that you've seen what is happening in your legislative branches at the highest level and who you got representing you. Evil, ugly, racist, biased, prejudiced people saying some of the craziest things that you could say about people. And they will say it about their constituents and white men. And white men is looking stupid sitting here trying to advocate for y'all. Gab, shout out to Gab, Light Too Bright in the building. I appreciate you for the super sticker. Thank you, my friend. N8 is in the building, says, I'd guess the anxieties make it hard to swallow. Oh, that's why people spit? Dean Murray says he is getting ready to spit in jail. That's why. Jerry, what up, Jerry? Says Jussie Smollet lying like his cousin Kamala. Oh, they cousins? I didn't know they was kissing cousins. It's Tim Stepney. Shout out to Tim Stepney. Let me give you a round of applause. Been getting to the bag. Appreciate your wisdom, Mr. Daniels. Make sure that y'all tap into the Patreon with the bag chasers. We running it up in there. Darius Davenport says, I had my annual review today and was able to bargain for a 50% increase in my bonuses. This is my testimony that your blueprint to success works. Oh, wait a minute. You telling me that I didn't tell you to go and protest and run in the Victim Olympics, Darius? Being a bag chaser, it's a scam. It's an investment. Blessing to you, AD. Shout out to you for your 50% raise in bonuses. And shout out to the bag chasers. I love you. Jeweled Alchemy Soap Company says, Happy Friday, Anton. Just wanted to wish an early happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Hope your mom doesn't sit you at the kids' table over Trump. I'm going to be live streaming on Thanksgiving. Trust and believe. Nothing changes. Bill Cosby got released for a similar reason. Jerry said this is the case that pushed the Emmett Till bill. Jasmine Crockett is unfortunately my soror. Yeah, but y'all not all the same. Y'all not all the same. April, what up, April? Says Jasmine is being pushed by the same old leaders here in Dallas that want to continue to push the victim rhetoric in order to be able to exploit us. She basically won on identity politics and donors. Jay Sanchez says, we as black people disadvantage ourselves, voting blue, victim mentality, glorifying dysfunction, not getting married before having babies. We do it to ourselves. Shout out to Just For Me. Shout out to Just Me. 83 in the building. What in the World TV says over there they will literally spank them in the streets. If I was in charge, the pillory would come back over here. Poor Legacy says, Barrel of Poor Legacy sending you an email about our band, Poor Legacy. Enjoy this coffee. On us, Godspeed. Thank you for the coffee. I appreciate you. Wealth building journey in the building. Concentrate your assets to become rich. Diversify assets after getting rich to stay rich. Crockett is off on this. Maybe if she took off those butterfly eyelashes, she could have paid better attention in her studies. Just saying. Mr. Undisputed says rich black people talking about slavery is wild. That's a fact. She always loud and wrong. Just hush sometimes. Free Thinker says, Weeze is disassembled, boss. Billy Goat Gruff, Anton, they're going to bar us blacks from any type of office if this type of nonsense continues. The people brought you don't owe you, the ones that sold you well. Shout out to Shrika, first time catching a live, love from Dallas. Shout out to Shrika, I appreciate you. Kimmy Joe says, it would be great if she had this much compassion for the children that her party is allowing to be trafficked. Oh, I like that. Let me give you a ping. Car Fairbanks, shout out to you, says, leave their arses behind. I'm not wasting no more breath on the delusional people. I'm just going to grab the popcorn. High Tolerance is in the building, says, good morning, AD. This hen tried to go sister soldier and swore she was cooking. She'll only thrive in the rooms where she is the smartest. Nothing more than a louder Maxine Waters. Kung Fu Hustler says, the most profitable franchise in the world is Pokemon, so her diversity argument is false. Eric Wealth Harris says 55 congressmen plus one trans who wants to use women's restrooms. And then Chris Cunningham says diversity does work when you are the best candidate for the job, not just because you were entitled to it. I agree with that. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to everybody that hold us down. Shout out to everybody that support the platform. Let's get into this Matt Gaetz, Pam Bondi situation, all right? So Matt Gaetz is out. Matt Gaetz is out because he wanted to remove the distractions from this pick. Check it out.
We have breaking news this hour. Matt Gaetz is stepping down from his nomination to Attorney General of the United States. Many said this was the most contentious of the nominations made by former President Trump. And he has announced categorically that he will not be seeking confirmation to the post of Attorney General. Here are his words. I had excellent meeting with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback and the incredible support of so many. While the momentum was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition. There's no time to waste on a needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. Thus, I'll be withdrawing my name from consideration to serve as Attorney General. Trump's DOJ must be in place and ready on day one. I remain fully committed to seeing that Donald J. Trump is the most successful president in history. Look, Griff, this was quick. I mean, the appointment came as a surprise to many, and we will see what happens. We know the deputy is Todd Blanche. That was Trump's attorney in his case with Alvin Bragg here in New York. Many suspected that if Gaetz did not make it through, that perhaps Blanche would be elevated.
Well, we'll see where it goes. And I think really the question over what Matt Gaetz does next is really fascinating because he resigned from the current Congress. He was elected to the next one, but his resignation officially set in motion Governor DeSantis standing up a special election quickly. Gaetz's district in the Panhandle is very Republican. It was always going to be a Republican that replaces him. The question now is, will Gaetz run in his own special election to try and get reelected back to Congress? And the question about, there was clearly, Kaylee, pressure building.
Sean Z says, here, I'm going to show this because I actually believe this is true. Sean Z says Anton Gaetz was a plant to draw out the rhinos. Trump is too smart. I believe that also. I believe that Matt Gaetz, when they went through, even though we control all the House and the Senate, when they went through, they said that he wouldn't get enough votes, and then they was trying to figure out, and they let this play out for a long time. They was actually trying to figure out, I believe that this was a strategy, that they were trying to figure out who was going to be against Trump's pick so that he can realize and figure out exactly who his ops were, even within his own party. If that is the case, if that is exactly how this played out, because it says Gaetz was being rejected, Falafel says Gaetz was being rejected by Republicans in the Senate, I think that was a beautiful play. It was a great play to draw out who the bad actors were, who the ops were, so that before he even get into office, he can address that accordingly and be able to move how he need to move to make sure that he gets stuff done in his administration and over the next 2 to 4 years. The sentiment amongst the people was that Matt Gaetz was a plant to then draw out the ops to figure out exactly how he needed to move and who was going to be his opposition going forward. Let's continue.
Sources in Capitol Hill telling me and every other reporter in Washington that this ethics report was likely coming out. And now maybe that's up in the air now that he steps away, or maybe it accelerates it. That's yet to be seen.
It is yet to be seen. You know, Harris, so he resigned from the 118th Congress. And when he gave his speech on the House floor announcing that resignation, he said, I do not intend to take the oath of office for the same office in the 119th Congress.
Have y'all noticed how this is probably the first time that we've ever heard this level of scrutiny and this much promotion and visibility from every single pick? Every single pick makes national headlines. We never even really paid attention to all of the people that Biden was appointing. We never paid attention to what was happening in Obama's picks. Nobody really questioned what Kamala Harris was going to do if she wound up becoming president of the United States of America. The only thing that she ever mentioned was that she would probably consider somebody from the Republican Party as a part of her administration or a part of her cabinet to ensure that she got things done. Nobody ever questioned it. Every single pick is scrutinized. Everyone. Even when we have bipartisan agreement that the federal government is too bloated and it needs to have an audit, they then started to criticize Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy for creating the Department of Government Efficiency.
You have to ask, Does he now take that back and try to be a congressman, or does he go away?
He said, but you caught what he said, the same office.
Yeah.
DeSantis has to appoint, if Michael Waltz, congressman, moves on in his nominated post, if Marco Rubio, senator, moves on in his nominated post, he's got some positions to work with there in that state. Could it be Matthew Gaetz, who then becomes a U.S. senator for an interim in the state of Florida?
That's an interesting thought. I mean, Cassie, there's also the notion that Trump could appoint him to a big and powerful position that does not require Senate approval. He clearly thinks fondly of Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is someone who wants to drain the swamp, who wants to shake things up in a big way. Trump could put him in a big position, just one shy of needing Senate confirmation.
Yeah, these are all very interesting scenarios to see how they play out. It's no secret that Matt Gaetz doesn't really sit with anyone at the lunch table in Congress. He's made a lot of enemies and he's turned people the wrong way. But that's not to say that he's just going to go away and say, you know what, all right, we don't get along. I'm going to go back to Florida and hang out on the beach. I think he has higher aspirations. I think you're right. We know President Trump really likes him and thinks that he is a great defender of his agenda. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him again sooner than we think.
There's also the ethics committee. I've watched several members, Democrat and Republican, talk about this. There was a loggerhead. There was not an agreement to release the
Billy says no way that Gaetz was a decoy. Okay, so let's explore it on the other side, all right? Let's assume that he wasn't a decoy. Did the results, was it still beneficial? That's the thing that we have to ask ourselves. Was it beneficial? Whether he was a decoy or he wasn't a decoy, did it then still draw out the same results, and did it draw out the enemies or the people that was against Trump that helped him to realize how he was going to have to move going forward? Either way, it was a win-win, and I think that Pam Bondi is probably a better suited for the job, but we'll get to Pam Bondi shortly.
Report. You had Democrats saying we want a full vote of the House as to whether this report should come out.
Right.
Emily, one would think that moves away, and now the ethics report is a done deal and the dustbin of history, but maybe not.
Right. I mean, Senator John Cornyn came out and said, look, this is going to come out one way or another, he said. He was quite vociferous, unlike, for example, another senator who anonymously commented on the record that it would be very contentious and essentially requesting that Gaetz step aside to save him the, quote, embarrassment of that public trial that Senator Cornyn said would be messier than Kavanaugh. It would be even more brutal. So I think that might have played into it. Perhaps we don't know what happened behind closed doors, if there was pressure that former Congressman Gaetz acquiesced.
Let's look at this. Let's look at this super chat. Because, you know, the chat is my co-host. Rather than admit Trump made a bad pick, you want to go with the theory this was just a chess move by Trump. Come on, let's use common sense and not emotional deflection. Trump supporter, but still a realist. How am I don't think that it was a bad pick. I don't think that it was a bad pick. I think that Matt Gaetz is exceptional, and I think that he would do great at the job. The thing that people are complaining about is not whether or not he'd be great at the job, but whether or not they're criticizing the optics of the move. They're not criticizing whether or not he'd be great at what he did at the job. That's the problem with the conversation. And so when I see people say, well, no, he made a bad pick, in whose eyes? The only thing, if this election taught you anything, it's that people only care about the results. They don't care anything about how you feel. They're not tripping about what your perceived background is. They don't care about the allegations that's been levied against you. The only thing that they care about is if you are going to execute on the job that is in front of you, that ultimately put us in the best position as people to ensure that we have a greater opportunity to be great in this country for our families. The question never was, is he going to be good for the job, or is he great at what he does? The question is whether or not we like the optics of what his backgrounds are based off of allegations that was being levied against him. And so you can sit here and say, well, he made a bad pick. According to who? He's not even in office yet. He's not in office yet. The only way that you can say somebody is a bad pick is if they take the position, they get into office, and then they're actually horrible at the job, and then you don't address it, and you don't fire them and replace them with the right person. You understand what I'm saying? That's the reason why we have different legislations, why we have different branches of government in order to ensure that we are protected against other things that may not be best for us. Don't worry about it. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Two, in the form of, look, don't jump on the grenade. There was also the thoughts that perhaps it might make other nominations easier. But it seemed as if the ethics report potentially had a big impact. But again, to the senator's point, perhaps that's going to be released no matter what.
If Governor DeSantis were to put him and appoint him, you also get around any sort of confirmation situation. You fill a Republican seat in a state that is red, that's been red, and you know who you have in the Senate. You already have a majority. I mean, I would really watch that if that's what he wants.
Yes, we will see.
Can I just say, if you were just walking it out, because we're just getting this news, and it's like, wow, what if you filled Rubio's seat with Gaetz and made him a senator? Or Waltz. You still don't get rid of
stays in the House.
What Emily was talking about, the ethics report, and what was going to be the consequences. You saw New York Times is already reporting this long stream of payments, apparently, that was part of the testimony to the House.
So Matt Gaetz is out and Pam Bondi is in. And so this was the report from Fox News as far as what they were breaking, as far as talking about Pam Bondi being in. And then
President-elect.
And then we're going to go over to the left. Because one of the things that I like to do is I like to use different sources to get different views, different points of view of how they feel about these different picks, right? So we're going to go to Fox News at first to talk about Pam Bondi. And then we're going to switch over to MSNBC and we're going to talk about how they feel about Pam Bondi now being picked.
Donald Trump picking a new attorney general nominee just hours after Matt Gaetz' decision to withdraw. Fox News Digital's political correspondent Brooke Singman live now with the very latest. Brooke, good morning.
Good morning, Maria. That's right. So President Trump appointing Pam Bondi to serve as attorney general. Bondi served as Florida's attorney general from 2011 to 2019, and she was the state's first female attorney general. Before that, she served 18 years as a prosecutor. Now, as Florida AG, Bondi led efforts to combat opioid abuse and end human trafficking. She also helped recover more than $1 billion in consumer protection, antitrust, and false claims matters. Bondi is a longtime Trump ally, and the president says she will, quote, refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again. She is smart and tough and is an America First fighter who will do a terrific job as attorney general. Now, this nomination comes just hours after Trump's first pick, Congressman Matt Gaetz, dropped out of the running. This after Trump reportedly told him he did not have the votes to get confirmed. Gaetz congratulating Bondi, saying, quote, Pam and I worked closely together when she was Florida's AG, and I chaired criminal justice in the State House. She is a proven litigator and an inspiring leader and champion for all.
Why do y'all say stuff like this? Is this like a troll or is this a real thing? Somebody says, I think Anton a Mason. What does that mean? What is a Mason? What is a Mason? Somebody tell me what a Mason is. What does that mean? I'm going to tell you something. I'm only a part of two organizations, and I'm going to be very, very transparent about my background. I'm a part of the Saints. Saints meaning saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost. So I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus, and I'm a bag chaser. That's it. Those are the only organization. I'm not Phi Psi, Mason, all of that nonsense, Illuminati, all of that crap. Let me tell you something, bro. I am a believer in Christ, and I'm a bag chaser. And if you ain't one of those, then I don't know who you are. I don't even see you. You understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying now? All right? I just want to make sure that we all on the same page. Let's continue.
Meanwhile, Oregon Congresswoman Lori Chavez-Derrimer is reportedly being considered for labor secretary. She met with the president at Mar-a-Lago this week, and she also has support from Teamsters president Sean O'Brien. Trump will also name new leadership for the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Now, SEC Chair Gary Gensler announcing yesterday that he does plan to step down on Inauguration Day, while FDIC Chair Martin Grunberg will resign the day before. And we are still waiting on a pick for Treasury Secretary, but the president-elect is reportedly closing in on Kevin Warsh, with the intention of him later taking over the Federal Reserve once current chair Jerome Powell's term ends in 2026. Trump is also reportedly considering appointing investor Scott Bessent to lead the White House National Economic Council. He would later replace Warsh as Treasury Secretary. Maria?
All right, Brooke, thanks.
So, Matt Gaetz is out and Pam Bondi is in. And we want to explore exactly how the left is reacting to this, because I think that that's a better conversation to have. Let me go ahead and read some of these super chats and then we'll deep dive into that. And I'm going to read some of the Cash Apps also. Tracy Merriweather says, got a super sticker. Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate you. The Grayway says, I haven't wrote a super chat in a minute. What up, Grayway? Where you been at, big dog? I haven't wrote a super chat in a minute. So what's up, AD, co-host chat, Chasers, be blessed, family. Shout out to the Chasers. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. And get your tickets to come and see me December 14th in Detroit. It's going to be awesome. Sean S. says 100% that Matt was the big ask and Pam was the one supposed to be AG. The turnaround time was way too fast for this not to be the case. Matt for senator. Shout out to Sean S. I appreciate you. Perfect Peace Vibes. What up, Perfect Peace? Says, hey, Mr. AD, my supervisor says she'll promote me to director next month. Man, shout out to you. Let me give a round of applause for y'all. But I haven't had that formal discussion yet. Have you ever negotiated a higher salary increase before? Any advice and thanks? Yep, I will give you some advice. So I'm not sure what industry you in, and I'm not sure what kind of organization you work for. So when I say industry, whether or not you in a tech industry, working for a technological company, if you're in the manufacturing industry, if you're in a nonprofit, so on and so forth. And then the structure, meaning that you can be in an industry. So for example, you can be in banking, but you can be in the technology sector of banking. The first thing that I would say that you need to do is you need to go on Glassdoor and look at how much that position is making in your particular industry, in your area. So all three of those things matter. Position, industry, area. All right. Position, industry, area. Now, the position itself is going to pay differently in California than it is going to pay in Florida or it's going to pay in Ohio. Okay. Industry matters because you'll probably get more from, for example, let's say if you work directly for Google versus working in the technology industry in a traditional form, right? So you can work for a Ford Motor Company, General Motors, you can work for a furniture company, right? But they have a technology division. It's not going to be one for one, but you'll have more opportunity to be transformational within that. And I'm just using these as examples. And so all of that matters. The biggest thing is you need to understand Glassdoor. Most times when you get promoted to the position from the company that you in, you're going to make less money because you'll always make more money leaving. And that's why I tell people, still have your hat on, still get the experience, still build your resume, but don't depend on them to continue to give you the same amount of money, because promoting from within doesn't mean that you're not going to make just as much money, but the chances are is that they're gonna approach you and say, well, you know, we're promoting you into this position, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the necessary experience, and so we want you to grow into the position. So most of the time, they'll offer you a lower salary to keep you with the company and to keep you happy, and you're not necessarily going to make the equivalent of you know what you would be making from your peers in the industry. However, here's the key, and this is one of the reasons why you always have to have multiple irons in the fire. You have to be willing to say no. If the responsibilities is more than the salary is worth, then progress is not necessarily as important as far as taking a position. And chances are, if you're willing to say no, then they'll be willing to offer you more money. If you're willing to say no, they'll be willing to offer you no more money. Now, what do I mean by the certain industry that you're in, right? So if you work for a nonprofit, it's going to be difficult for you to get equity in the company, right? You can't get stock options. A lot of times when you start to get to higher levels within corporate America, you don't necessarily be concerned about the base salary. You're more concerned about your bonus and equity, right? You're working for bonus and you're working for equity positions, and you're not working for the base salary. A lot of people think that they need to go to and they need to focus on, well, what is my pay going to be? Don't focus on that. Focus on, you know, and again, I don't know what industry you're in, so it's hard for me to have this conversation. Focus more on what your equity is going to be, and you know, also what the next position is above that, and then also focus on what your bonuses are going to be. You don't work for the base salary, you work for the bonuses. All right. I just want to leave that there, give you a little bit of insight, just because I'm proud of you. Shout out to you, Perfect Peace Vibes, for getting your promotion and going to the next level. AR says, rather than admit Trump made a bet. Oh yeah, I read that one. All right. Shout out to you. I appreciate you for that. Fatir Wood says, I notice the only people who think they are discriminated against are politicians and those with low achievement. Myself and others at the top of our respective fields never seem to see discrimination. Me neither. Trump said he and Gaetz have a secret. You think about Trump. What do you think about Trump teaming up with Elon Musk to destroy the NLRB? I don't know what the NLRB is, but I think having having Elon Musk on your side is a great thing. Why was I put on timeout? Who put Trini Life on timeout, y'all? Y'all don't put Trini Life on timeout. You must have said something disrespectful. David Simpson Jr. says, y'all still don't understand Trump. When opening a negotiation, all Senate confirmations are negotiation. You make a big initial request. Pam Bondi, how misogynistic. One time for the one time. Aaron Eldon says, I'm skeptical of everything. I voted for him, but must be critical of everything he does. No elected official should ever get the benefit of the doubt. Okay. For the collection plate, God bless, says Mr. Joe. The Gray Way says, I watch every day, AD. I'm just not able to chat. That's cool. I'm with you. I just want to make sure that you're still here. Lisa Emden says, it was a play on words when Matt stepped down. He stated he was leaving the current 118th Congress. The new 119th Congress will be sworn in on January 3rd. Trump did this to flesh out the rhinos. Shout out to my girl Mika in the building. Says, good morning, AD. You're a blessing as always. Can't wait to see the new studio. P.S. Just sharing my bonus with my favorite YouTuber. Now don't tell them I'm giving bonuses out. They're going to be trying to act like I ain't sharing the wealth. You know what I'm saying? Good morning to the realest and the greatest show out. Thank you, Brother Mills. Let me acknowledge some of the cash apps also, because I always like to acknowledge everybody everywhere. Moses, Levite, Israel says, keep cooking. Thank you, Moses. Adrian Till, I appreciate you. Trini Life, Trini, why are you in timeout? Brian Hunter, all money in, no money out, bag chaser, stand up. Shout out to all of y'all. And my dog, Mr. Lott. You over there? You in that building right there, Mr. Lott? Or are you over here? Mr. Lott is downtown with me. So shout out to my dog, Mr. Lott. I love you. Says salute to the chasers. Shout out to Mr. Lott. All right. Let's deep dive and let's go into the liberal perspective of how they feel about Pam Bondi now being selected in place of Matt Gaetz. All right. So let's go over to MSNBC and let's see what they have to say. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications.
Breaking news here right now on a day where President-elect Trump has dropped his Attorney General nominee, Matt Gaetz, who formally publicly withdrew today. And now, moments ago here, we just got President-elect Trump announcing a new selection for Attorney General, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. She was a lawyer who has worked alongside Donald Trump's impeachment defense lawyers at the first impeachment. So she played that role for then President Trump. In a new post that we got here, 6:28 p.m. Eastern from Donald Trump's Truth Social, he says he is announcing former Attorney General of Florida, Pam Bondi, as our, quote, next Attorney General of the United States. And he cites her work as a prosecutor for nearly, quote, 20 years. A contrast, of course, to Matt Gaetz's inexperience. And he says she was, quote, very tough on violent criminals and made the streets safe for Florida families. He goes on, and this is notable given the controversies. Donald Trump, in this statement, says, quote, the partisan DOJ has been weaponized against me, not anymore. Pam will refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose. We are following this breaking story. It came just moments ago here as we were covering the other DOJ news with Donald Trump's other first pick for AG, dropping out, Matt Gaetz. And we're joined by Juanita Tolliver, who is covering that story with us. Welcome back. This is that kind of breaking news night. Your thoughts on the fast naming of a replacement?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind, Ari, is loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. It's my understanding
Kendrick.
that Pam Bondi has been right there, yes, Kendrick, right there with Trump on his super PAC for the 2024 election. She helped participate in his legal contestation of the 2020 election and vote counting in that election, as well as apparently engaging in some of his previous cases down in Florida. And so I feel like she is someone who Donald Trump fully expects to be able to pick up the phone and call and do his bidding. Remember, this is a behavior and approach that Trump attempted with William Barr, but apparently Barr had a threshold that prompted him to stop doing Trump's bidding around his push around 2020 election and overturning the efforts to overturn the election. But Pam Bondi seems to be someone that he's plucked from Florida. We know he is a Florida man, but he's plucked because he's familiar with her and fully expects her to go from his super PAC now into the DOJ to do his bidding, which we know includes cleaning house over at DOJ for anyone who's been critical of him.
How many people works for the Department of Justice? Let me look that up. I need Carrie in here. Really? No, that can't be right. That can't be right. According to the United States Department of Justice, it employs more than 115,000 employees. Is that accurate? That can't be right. Under the leadership of the Attorney General of the United States, the Justice Department is composed of more than 40 separate component organizations and more than 115,000 employees, according to the United States Department of Justice. Jesus. No way. Look at this org chart. Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, Solicitor General, Attorney General, Office of Legislative Affairs, Office of Legal Policy, Office of Tribal Justice, Office of Legal Counsel, Office of Public Affairs, the DEA, U.S. Attorneys, Executive Office for U.S. Attorneys, Office of Information Policy, Foreign Claims Settlement Commission. What is the payroll of the Department of Justice? Jesus. The tax division is in there, of course. Civil division, U.S. Marshal Service, Interpol, Washington, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. So basically, the FBI. Man, the Office of a Pardon Attorney, U.S. Parole Commission. Interesting. I never had an opportunity to really deep dive into that. I didn't realize that they had 115,000 employees. That's pretty insane. Anyways, let's continue.
Stay with me, Juanita. I want to bring back Jason Johnson. You may remember him from such news events as...
Do they need that many employees and do they need that many departments? Now you see where all of your tax dollars is going. I didn't realize. What's the average? Okay, let me see what the average is. The average salary for a U.S. Department of Justice employee varies depending on the position and the qualifications. Federal prosecutors make $228,000 a year. An attorney base salary is $133,000 per year with a total pay range of $108 to $163. Special agents median base pay is $145,000 a year with a range of $117 through $180. Base salary for a candidate with a law degree GS 11 Step 1 is $62,000 a year. All right, so let's assume, on a light note, let's assume for the sake of conversation that the average salary is $100,000 a year, which obviously it looks like it's more than that. So $100,000 a year times 115,000 employees. That's so many zeros, I don't even know what that is. 3 6. Nine. Is that 11? That's so many zeros. I don't even know how many zeros that is. It's a lot of zeros, and that ain't even administration costs. That's just salary costs. That is so many zeros. I don't even know what the number is. That is so many zeros. I can't. I don't know what that budget is. All right, let me look this up. Give me a second. Budget for DOJ. $1.3 billion. The governor's budget. Oh, hold on. Wait. No, I'm sorry. No, it's more than that. I don't know. Okay, the Department of Justice had a $67 billion $67 billion distributed amongst its 11 sub components. They got $67 billion being distributed at the Department of Justice. Department of Justice has a $67 billion budget with $37.8 billion in discretionary resources. Now we know somebody get Elon in there ASAP. Somebody get Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy in there ASAP. ASAP. This is insane. I'm learning more about the federal government than I've ever learned in my entire life.
Covering the DOJ 10 minutes ago. Welcome back, Jason.
Thanks, Ari.
It's a big news night. I'm going to let you get in here, but I'll tell viewers, because I always try to keep it as real and frank as possible. This is how this works. We did book these two guests for a different.
Moderators, make sure that y'all not timing out people unless they're being crazy disrespectful, all right?
Attorney General nominee story. But I don't think either of you knew that this was breaking. The timestamp on Donald Trump's statement tonight, 6:28 p.m. Eastern, naming Pam Bondi. I want to add a couple more details on that because it's a breaking story, and then Jason bring you in here. There is a distinction that everyone should understand about this Attorney General nominee versus Matt Gaetz. Many people, experts, nonpartisan officials, as well as Republicans, noted that Gaetz had essentially no experience as a prosecutor or in the kind of legal managerial work that anyone would do at any leadership level at DOJ, let alone the top post of Attorney General of the United States. The contrast to Ms. Bondi is she does have that kind of experience, much more traditional than what you would see in a top DOJ post, because she was the top law enforcement official in the state of Florida, and she has over 15 years experience in that role and other roles as a prosecutor. If you remember Kamala Harris running for president and talking about being a prosecutor at the state level, this is that kind of job. And so in that experience, it is much more of a traditional role.
It's well over 4,000 people in here. We should have well over 2,000 likes at this point.
Something that the Senate Judiciary Committee and others who vet these kind of nominees would see as a positive, as experience. The flip side, which our guest Juanita just mentioned, is unlike traditional attorneys general, this is an individual who's very tied politically to Donald Trump, the loyalty that he has talked about. And while there is nothing disqualifying about working on an impeachment defense, it positions her not as someone who is a nonpartisan state-level prosecutor ready to rise up to the DOJ, but someone who's already been in those really searing partisan battles over Donald Trump's conduct in history. And you want generally an attorney general who is not overly tied to past partisan positions, even when they intersect, for example, with politics and law in Washington. So that's one update I wanted to give and bring you back in, Jason. I say that with all accuracy and fairness. On paper, her state-level experience is much closer to what presidents in both parties have sought at the DOJ. That's a huge difference with Matt Gaetz. The political part, though, is different. Right. And then what I bring to you is, and Juanita mentioned it, you have that political history and you have a proposed number two, a deputy attorney general who recently handled Donald Trump's criminal defense. So if this were the team, and they have to go through vetting and confirmation, but if this were the team, this would be two of the most politically defensive lawyers of the personal capacity of an incoming president we've ever seen running DOJ at the same time.
All right, I completely agree. And quite frankly, my thought is that after Gaetz dropped out, it would be essentially somebody from Trump's legal team. It would be like a Jay Sekulow or somebody like that. I assume that's where he would get these people from. Unlike William Barr, even going back to when we were all kids and like Janet Reno, right? Occasionally attorney generals try to behave like they are not the personal lawyer of the president of the United States. That is completely out the window. Pam Bondi is exactly what I was saying in the last segment that we should all fear because she's competent.
I wasn't expecting for him to say that.
We may not agree with her ideologically, but she actually knows how to do this job. So if anyone on the Democratic side or anyone who cared about liberty or justice was thinking, well, maybe Matt Gaetz will screw this up and that'll give us some time. No, Pam Bondi knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing about immigration. Remember, Florida is one of those states that's been very aggressive about migrants and deportation and moving people to.
Is this MSNBC? Are we watching MSNBC?
Different states and everything else like that. Florida has enacted all sorts of rules and laws to curtail students and what they can do on campuses and finding legal justifications for manipulating education money. She is a dangerous and effective pick, and that's frankly worse than what we would have got with Matt Gaetz, even with the deplorable moral background that he has.
Yeah.
So he's trying to make a case against her, but he's making a case for her by saying that she's competent. But really, they crashing out because they want to not like her for the fact that Trump picked her. But at the same time, they advocating for her by saying that she's effective and she knows how to do the job. And so they viewing it as a double negative. What? How does that even make sense? So, okay, all right. He's saying that she is incredibly competent and great at her job, but that's a negative because she works for Donald Trump. If we just want to break it down from a C student's perspective, what he's saying is this should be scary for liberals, not necessarily, or people that's on the other side of Trump, not necessarily because he's saying that Matt Gaetz would have been incompetent, and so because he would have been incompetent, he wouldn't have been able to do the job, and they would be able to use that against Trump. But is he saying that this is scary because it'll be bad for the United States of America because she is competent? Or is he saying that she's scary because the liberals is not going to like the fact that she's competent and she's going to make everybody look bad by her ability to be able to execute on the things that the American taxpayers said that they wanted inside of this administration? So you scared of her. You scared of her. That's basically what they're saying. Okay, this is a new level of meltdown that I haven't never seen before. I've never seen a meltdown. Yes, a backhanded compliment, Tash. I've never seen this type of meltdown, but in advocating for somebody's competency against you because she's dangerous to what you're trying to push as an agenda. Let me see if I can get more out of this. This is crazy.
And I want to discuss that with a little more depth with both of you, including her record on civil rights, LGBTQ rights, and other issues that are front and center at the DOJ, and which we know were also big campaign issues this cycle. So I'm going to ask both of you to hang with me. I've been very clear with viewers. This is breaking news. Our guests are going to stay. But I'm going to go one-on-one and check in with someone who's been following all of the transition news very closely. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard live from Mar-a-Lago. I got a couple of questions for you, Vaughn, but first I'll let you report out what you're hearing and what you think is important on what has been a very active day of transition changes.
Right, Ari. If I could just kind of give you a sense of how this is going here at this point, because of Donald Trump's lack of telegraphing on so many of these picks and making them like the Matt Gaetz pick on the fly on his airplane as he was coming back here to Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach with Matt Gaetz, announcing his pick, surprising and turning the heads of everybody. I was with a fellow reporter just about a block from where I'm standing now, and that reporter says, Pam Bondi, he picked Pam Bondi, and my reaction was, for what? And I don't say that out of a disrespect to Pam Bondi, the longtime Attorney General from Florida here, but because Pam Bondi's name was not in the mix here, at least publicly, of all of the litany of names that we were talking about to fill this capacity. She's somebody that, as far as my understanding of her history, does not have experience in the Department of Justice, yet she served here. She defended Donald Trump during his impeachment proceedings. She has been a frequent presence over the last 5 years on cable TV, particularly Fox and other right-wing outlets, defending Donald Trump from during the course of his indictment to the two different impeachment proceedings he went through. So clearly, I think in Pam Bondi, I think there's a lot of questions that she'll undoubtedly face during the confirmation proceedings. But Ari, as you guys were just talking about, I think that there's also the question of especially to what extent extent will Pam Bondi's loyalty extend to her going and seeking out political investigations into his perceived enemies? And will she be able to withstand throughout the course of his administration to any pressures or desires that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, wants her to execute on?
No, we want her to do exactly what he tell her to do, and that's the reason why we elected him to be president of the United States of America. Let me go ahead and move on. So let me read some of these super chats, and then we're going to move on to the next portion of the show. I want to get over to The View, my favorite lunch ladies. Mika, you shared $5 out of your bonus? Yeah, shout out to my girl Mika. Perfect Peace Vibe says, I work at a nonprofit organization. Appreciate the gems. Listen, I think that you should take the position, but you should use it as an opportunity to level up, get the experience, and then move out of nonprofit. Because all of the money is not is outside of nonprofit. Take the position and negotiate for as high as a salary that you could possibly get based off the industry that you're in. And then use that experience to get the heck up out of there and get a real position that's gonna pay you way more, probably double, even triple of what you're making right now. Shout out to Perfect Peace Vibes and congratulations. Let's Talk Game says, I don't know why I couldn't send you more in the super chat, but I sent it via PayPal. Oh, thank you, Let's Talk Game. I appreciate you. Nice for everything says I can't join Patreon yet until I clear up this debt. Okay, that's cool. I mean, it's $15, but I feel you. United States Department of Justice budget for 2024 fiscal year is $37.52 billion. The budget request for fiscal year 2024 includes, shout out to you, I appreciate you for the insight. Nigel Johnson says, hey, AD, off subject, but I've been thinking, and I value your advice, and I was wondering, as a 26-year-old, do you think if I cut my dreads and kept the low cut, the business world would take me more seriously? Yes. Definitively, yes. Now, there's going to be some people that say, oh, no, you could just clean them up. Yes. Listen. Think about it from this lens, okay? Think about it from this lens, because a lot of black people have a big problem with this. A lot of black people struggle. They struggle mightily with this. And they say, well, why should I change, or why shouldn't people accept me as I am, or whatever? It's not about you and your culture. It's about what's appropriate in corporate culture. Corporate culture is much different than black culture. Corporate culture is much different than white culture. Corporate culture is much different than rap culture. It's all different. And so there is a look, there is a way in which you're supposed to, because you got to remember that you are a representation of the company, right? And so you're marketing and you're branding the company, and there's a look that you're supposed to have. It's almost like, I'll give you an example. White people have this mullet look that they got going on. They got this mullet look, and I think that it's a dope look for white boys, right? But you will never see a mullet look inside of corporate America leveling up and getting to the highest levels in corporate America. You're just not. You're going to be looked at as an entertainer, right? So the long hair, the long, rock star hair, you don't see that in corporate America from white people. So the things that they like, that they think is cool, is not appropriate for corporate culture. And it's the same thing when it comes to black people. Now, I'm not telling you that you have to. I'm telling you that if you want to be taken seriously, then you have to have a different look. You understand what I'm saying? So, I think that we always think that we're the only people that exist. And I'm not saying this against you, but I'm just saying against the culture. A lot of times we think that we're the only people that exist on the face of this earth, but I'm telling you that corporate culture has a look. That's a phenomenal question. That is a phenomenal question. I like that question. So, yes, absolutely yes. Good afternoon, AD and the Bag Chasers. Hope everyone is having a great day so far. I emailed you the design on Monday that I think you'll vibe with. Thank you. I appreciate you. Quan. Hit the Quan. Shout out to you, 42. Now y'all understand why government furloughs can hurt us here in the DMV so hard. The Department of Justice alone, we're estimating, has a $11.5 billion salary budget. Shout out to the wealth building journey. Thomas Washington says, Rahm Emanuel and Eric Holder exist. That's PMS NBC. Shout out to that. Shout out to you, AR Smitty. Chris Cunningham says this is one of Trump's trolling moments when he said Trump is scared of young women, strong women. Hashtag love it. Dr. Edward Williams says Republicans have freed blacks from plantation twice, 1864 and 2024. Hey Anton, what do you think about UpPro ETF? I don't. I don't know exactly what's in the UpPro ETF, so I haven't checked it out, but I can check it out inside of Stock Club. Remarkably Audacious says I have locks in corporate America. Okay, well, how far have you gone in corporate America with your locks? And where are you looking to go? And you are more than welcome to keep your locks. Listen, do you know that corporate America can also be the mailroom? Corporate America could also be, it's a lot of people say that they're in tech and they just work in the call center. Corporate America is just working for a corporation, but it doesn't mean that you'll get to the executive levels. All right, I'll tell you what. Name me, or show me 5 people that have ascended to the highest levels of a publicly traded company, but wanted to maintain their own culture. Anyways, let me continue on with the show. Listen, here's the real conversation. If you want to make it difficult on yourself, then do what you want to do. You can justify doing whatever you want to do. If you want to make it difficult for yourself to move to the next level, then do whatever you want to do. Go in with dreads, wear jeans, do what you want to do. Do whatever you want to do. If you want to evolve and you want to make it easier on yourself in order to be likable because being a cultural fit matters, then make the adjustment. All right. Let's continue on with the show. So, The View. All right. The View recently gave us their assessment of what is going on inside of the White House with Trump picks. They have not commented on this war in Ukraine and Russia, and they also have not commented on the Biden-Harris administration's support and enablement of Netanyahu, who is now a wanted criminal wanting to be arrested for war crimes. Neither here nor there. They focus all of their energy on Trump. So this is their latest assessment, and they're speaking about sexual allegations of people that get nominated to be an appointee in Trump's cabinet. Let's go into it.
The '2 era is official.
The House Ethics Committee has records of AG nominee Matt Gaetz paying over $10 grand to the 2 women who later testified against him. And Democrats like Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury are struggling to get the House in order. Take a look.
About to have a bipartisan report released by the House of Representatives to be our AG. We've got a Fox News commentator.
Y'all said be careful, Disney is now blocking the View stuff on stuff. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's see what's going to happen.
Who's going to run the military for us? So if my colleagues across the aisle want to talk about qualifications, they want to talk about efficiency, they want to talk about...
Yeah, let's get to the commentary.
Republicans are still blocking the release of Matt Gaetz's ethics report. So I'm curious how you-know-who is protecting women, whether they like it or not. Sexual misconduct allegations.
What? Wait, let me just get this one more time. I want to make sure that I got the question that they about to pose to the table.
You-know-who is... Republicans are still blocking the release of Matt Gaetz's ethics report. So I'm curious how you-know-who is protecting women, whether they like it or not.
producing this show? Make sure y'all let me know who the producer is for The View so I can never hire them a day in my life. That was the dumbest question that I've ever heard in my entire life, bro.
Sexual misconduct allegations seem not to matter anymore. It seems like unless you have a sexual misconduct allegation, you can't be in the cabinet.
That's true.
I mean, that's what it's looking like because, I mean, was it 11 people and maybe one of the 11 doesn't have something going
years
on?
ago, I think it was Cindy Adams used to have these parties, and they'd say, if you're not indicted, you're not invited. And it reminds me of this in a way. It's like, oh, let's see, who's accused of sexual assault? Put them in the cabinet. And they're like, pick me, pick me.
Well, I think one of the conversations coming up around this is, does this derail the Me Too movement? And I think that's a line in the sand that we don't go backwards on 1,000%.
Nope. I think that's a line in the sand that we do go backwards on. Absolutely, we do go backwards. Let me first start off by saying that an allegation is nothing more than just that. It's an allegation. Anybody can say anything about anybody at any point, and it can be taken as an allegation. Anybody can say anything about anybody at any point, and it can be considered an allegation. It does not make it true. And I'm telling you, there are so many people, so many men that have been accused of things that they didn't do from somebody that is opportunistic because they see the path where the person is going. There are guys that get out of jail every single day out of the Innocence Project. I believe that the Me Too movement, and this is my personal belief, I believe that the Me Too movement is one of the worst things that has ever happened to men and to the culture and to society itself. So when she says that this is the thing that we are not going back on, BS. BS. Personally, this has ruined so many people. And before you even get to find out whether or not they're telling the truth, you are already convicted in a court of public opinion. And if you have a high enough position, you could be removed because you're always going to be an at-will employee. So what I seen guys start to do is they then wouldn't even go into a meeting with a woman by themselves. They wouldn't even do a one-on-one with a subordinate by themselves. They always left the door open and had somebody with them because they were fearful, not because they were doing anything wrong, but because they didn't want to be accused of something without having evidence otherwise. I seen the Me Too movement spiral out of control so bad and be such a nuisance and such the wrong thing for society. And you are just believing people just because they said that they were, and it was guys that lost their jobs and then they weren't convicted of anything, or you found out that the woman was lying, but they didn't get their jobs back because it had already been a stain on their reputation. It's horrible.
We're watching P. Diddy is in jail right now, can't get bail because people know that criminal sexual assault has to be punished. But this does not surprise me that many people being nominated, that Donald Trump's circle would include, locker talk, people that want to grab you by the privates and help you whether you like it or not. Like, the people don't shock me, but it is getting up there. You've got now, just to be clear on my language here, alleged sexual misconduct or harassment. Gaetz, RFK Jr., Pete Hegseth, Elon Musk.
Donald Trump.
This is a Donald Trump problem to me, not a Me Too problem. This is what comes with it. But one interesting thing was Caroline Leavitt, who's Trump's picks for White House press secretary, said he has chosen brilliant and highly respected outsiders to serve in his administration, and he will continue to stand behind them as they fight against all those who seek to derail the MAGA agenda. I would encourage them to separate sexual assault and sexual offenders from their MAGA agenda, or you're telling me this is part of your agenda. And that's what's coming out.
What does being Make America Great Again have to do with gender politics, outside of making sure that we keep men out of women's sports and we keep men out of women's bathrooms and we keep children safe by not allowing people to make sure that they transition before they're old enough to realize what happened to them? All of a sudden stop, bro. Matter of fact, I'll tell you that some of the people that got the most allegations against them, and this is a fact, and you can actually go through and look at it, most of the people that get all of the stuff that's against them, they liberals. It don't be Republicans. It don't be people that's a part of Make America Great Again. And it doesn't matter who you are and what side of the aisle you are, whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. That has nothing to do with whether or not somebody is a sexual deviant. And this is the thing that I hate because it's such a disingenuous conversation. They try to tie how somebody views whether or not you should take box from somebody against somebody's will or sexual deviancy to a political party. And that's not right. Your politics has nothing to do with whether or not you're gonna pull your Johnson out in front of the wrong person and do the wrong thing. Some of the people that I've seen do some of the most deviant things. If you want to talk about P. Diddy, P. Diddy has always been a Democrat and he's always advocated for the Democratic Party. That's a fact. He's always said vote or die and has always been take that, take that, take that, and Harlem shaking for the Democrats. Whether or not you want to get into something that you're not supposed to be a part of don't have nothing to do with your political affiliations. What the piss is we talking about?
I'm remembering, it's reminded me of when Kavanaugh was up for the Supreme Court. Yeah. And the FBI never really followed through on the investigation, as far as I know. Am I correct on that?
You're correct. They stopped the investigation.
So, I mean, that's the beginning of the end right there. People should have been alerted to what was going to be coming down the pike right there. So I'm not surprised by this.
Well, and I think what I'm struck by with this is Donald Trump, any incoming president, does have a right to nominate who they want for their cabinet. The Senate will go through their advice and consent role. But there are people he could put in these roles who are both better qualified, better liked, and don't have this salacious baggage behind them.
Yeah, but they're not on television.
But the Matt Gaetz pick...
Then that means that we shouldn't be taking your opinion seriously then, right? We shouldn't take any of their opinions seriously because they on television. Hey, if that's not the pot calling the kettle black, you got these lunch ladies that's giving their opinion based off of what? They on television, so why shouldn't we take them serious? Right? Should we take Sunny Holston serious because she's what they said that she was a lawyer, right? So should we take what she says serious because now she's on TV? I don't take what she says serious because I think that she's a lunatic, not because of her background. And I think that the fact that you're on TV gives more visibility to the voices that should be heard. In this case, not so much. You shouldn't be heard.
In particular is fascinating to me. I do not know a single Republican who likes Matt Gaetz. This is a person who is widely, universally despised in Washington, D.C. He's come after all of his colleagues. Other Fox News hosts have come out and said that this is not a good pick. Trey Gowdy, who is a big fan of Donald Trump's, was extremely critical of him. The New York Post, owned by Rupert Murdoch, has come out against Gaetz as Attorney General. So when even the people who are in your camp and your fiercest defenders are saying, Donald, this might not be a good idea, I think you should consider it. And if Matt Gaetz does end up going forward to a confirmation hearing, he's going to have to sit down and convince senators. And just a quick recap of things he said about Republicans who he will need. Susan Collins. Voters should reject her and Lisa Murkowski. Markwayne Mullin is a fool. Mitch McConnell is in shambles. Tom Tillis is trying to get another blank check for a corrupt country. John Cornyn, there are better Johns than John Cornyn. I mean, these are people he takes his time rather than to legislate or deliver for his district. He's going after his own colleagues. I'd argue he's gone harder after Republicans than he ever has Democrats. I'm not entirely convinced he's going to get confirmed, though, because other than Donald Trump, I don't know anyone who likes Matt Gaetz.
Ted Cruz likes him.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, look at Cruz.
You know, my grandmother, who passed a couple years ago, used to always tell me in Spanish, tell me who you walk with and I'll show you who you are. And that came to mind every single time I see one of these cabinet picks, because we are all, flustered and disappointed and not surprised by these picks, but by the same token, the top of the ticket, the top of the Republican ticket, has been accused of sexual misconduct by over 26 women. The top of the...
What does she have on, and why is her jacket so big? Who is her stylist? Why is her sleeves over her hands? Is that supposed to be a style thing? And I know they got them shoulder pads in there. All right, let me not get distracted. Let me focus on what she's talking about.
The Republican ticket was found guilty of 34 felony counts involving hush payments to a porn star. The top of the Republican ticket.
Oh, you talking about the Letitia James witch hunt that they did over in New York?
Was found liable for sexual abuse of a woman. So why would anybody think that that particular party would have any problem with any of these picks? Because he is walking amongst the people that reflect who he is.
So you know what they say in Brooklyn, the fish stinks from the head.
Yes, yes. So this shouldn't be a surprise.
So they could just say anything. They just throw out a, well, you know what they say, the left loves the right. Well, you know what they say, the higher you are, the more you fall. Well, you know what they say, if you wear red, you bleed quicker. Well, you know what they said, the fish stinks from the head. Well, you know what they say, you are who you walking around with. Oh man, this is so dumb. It's such dumb logic.
And one last thing would be, you know, we're saying there are at least 3 people of these cabinet picks that have been accused of sexual assault. But McMahon, the woman that the woman that was chosen to be appointed to be the Department of Education secretary. In 2009, she was confirmed to Connecticut's State Board of Education. And a lot of people have said that gives her the credentials to run the Department of Education. Yeah. Well, what's being reported by the Daily Beast and ABC News is in her answers to the questionnaire about her background for that job, she lied. And she said that she had a degree in 1969 from East Carolina University in education. Her degree was in French. And so when the Hartford Courant, it wasn't education, it was French.
Oh, I thought you were saying the degree was in French. I was like,
no, she said her
she doesn't have
she
did not have a degree in education. Right. And when she was confronted with that, she resigned from the Board of Education. This is yet another person who he's chosen to lead the Department of Education.
You know, this is going to go on and on and on. He's picking people, and we have a choice. We can panic with everything he does, in which case you will be on the floor going, what the hell? Or you can wait and see what goes on, wait and see how this rolls down, and then decide how we're going to deal with it. Because otherwise, you're passing all that tension on to your families.
Too late. Listen, y'all can sit here and complain about all of these self-made millionaires and these great business people that's going to absolutely take this whole... You know what I've learned about people is that they are resistant to change. People are universally resistant to change. They don't like change. They don't like things being different. They don't like the fact that Trump is about to come in and change the whole establishment and get rid of all of this bloat in these departments and no longer support the Me Too movement and completely remove all of these different layers of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that people are going to have to stand on their own 2 feet. The difference between the Democrat and the Republican Party, the biggest difference, aside from how radical liberals have become, is that Democrats exist to make sure that they drive us into bankruptcy by giving out handouts and overtaxing, and Republicans believe in removing the barriers to entry that allows for you to be successful. That's it. Nobody is supposed to hand you or give you anything. We just want what we pay for. That's it. We just want what we pay for. And so you can try to shame people. You can go back and forth, or you can deal with the reality and make the adjustment because change has happened and change is already here. All right. We just got to make sure that Biden don't blow up the whole country within 2 months before Trump takes office. Let me go ahead and read some of the super chats and then we'll move over into the last part. We got to get to the money too. I want to talk about some money stuff before we get up out of here. What up, Natasha? Natasha in the building says Chuck Schumer flashed me at Costco. What did he flash you with? Some hot dogs? Senior IT consultant. And I can send you proof 80 plus K. What does that mean to me? That's not, listen. If you're a consultant, that means that you don't necessarily work in corporate, you work for corporate. You can send proof if you want to. That's fine. It doesn't change anything. Listen, you are on the low. All right. So since you wanted to say that, let me give you a little bit of insight. You are a senior IT consultant. Well, then you probably need to change your consultancy, because if you're only making $80,000, but you're a senior consultant, you're being woefully underpaid. So the first thing that I have to ask is, do you even know what you're talking about? And secondly, I have to ask, if this is real, then you're being robbed, and it's probably because you're not a cultural fit. You're a senior IT consultant, and IT consultants are supposed to make more than employees because of the rate that's being given to your consultant agency that's then contracting you to bring you in to implement change or to implement whatever policy that they need to do it at. You're a senior IT consultant, and you only making $80,000 a year? Where in Nigeria? I don't know a senior IT consultant that makes less than $180,000 a year. That's the honest to God truth. I don't know a senior IT consultant. Bro, listen, the more that y'all talk, the more that y'all start to expose yourselves, because you're not talking to a person that don't understand the business. I've been there, done that. I've done everything that you think that you can do. I'm telling you that if you're making $80,000, bro, you're an intern. You're a junior. You're a junior. You're a junior. You're an intern. You're an entry-level consultant making $80,000 a year, and you do not work for the company, right? On top of that, let's let's continue. On top of that, bro, I'm telling you that if you want to level up and you want to be making 250 as a base, 180 as a base with huge equity, huge bonuses, get up to the 350, 450 mark, then you're going to have to change whether or not you're a cultural fit. If you want to stay in the 80K range and they can give you a little fake title as senior IT consultant, then God bless you. Listen, you sitting there talking to a person that is leveled up in corporate America, that's went to some of the highest levels in corporate, and y'all arguing with me. I hate to do this. I hate to do this because I'm not going to shame, right? I'm not going to shame. I'm not going to say anything negative to a person. But let me tell you something, bro. You make $80,000 a year, and you're sitting here debating with me about being a cultural fit. This is why black people can't get ahead. Because you can't tell them nothing. They so busy trying to prove themselves to you. They're trying to prove themselves to you instead of taking the insight and advice to be able to level up. People are so busy trying to prove something to you instead of taking the insight so that they can level up. I made $80,000 last week. Why would you be sitting here trying to prove to me, and you're making yourself look stupid instead of learning and adjusting and figuring out where you can then level up and become richer as a result of it? I'm not trying to convince you. Do your thing, big dog. Listen, God bless you. I hope everything goes well. I hope everything goes well. Seriously. God bless you, remarkably audacious. And I hope that your rap career does well too. Or is that a podcast, Mike? I don't know. C. Hayes says, you are right. Years ago, I had dreads. When I cut them off, I got promoted from assistant manager to general manager. In 2 weeks now, I own a business. Shout out to you, C. Hayes. Let me give you a round of applause. Y'all gonna wake up, it's gonna be too late, and your opportunity's gonna be in past you. Be easy 333. Try pausing the show like Kevin Samuels to ensure the likes for the algorithm You have an extremely valuable program. Nah, I just cook. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. It is what it is. I ain't pausing nothing. Did Hassan Campbell ever respond or reach out to your response video? I don't know. Dog, y'all think I got time to be talking back and forth with Hassan Campbell? I just gave him a little bit of advice and I kept it moving. Chicago Red GOP needs to run candidates for 25-26. Shout out to you. Brock in the building says, Pastor Love offering. I'm so perplexed with Whoopi speaking about the Department of Justice or Donald J. Trump like he's the Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter saying, you know who. Why is she so sour? Well, you know they sour because they lost the election. I don't even know if Whoopi voted. Ray Vaughn says, curious if the believe all women logic to when white women were falsely accusing black men back in the day, there needs to be proof of truth. Jay Ben says, if their breath smells never mind, get the likes up. Danny Shade goes on to say, well, you know what they say at the end of the day, it's night. She sounds like one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, knick-knack, paddywhack. What up, Messi? Well, you know what they say, wherever you go, that's where you at. People just be saying crazy stuff. High Tolerance says, Joy got the audacity saying somebody's reeking, knowing damn well nobody looking for her smelling like white diamonds. White diamonds used to be the stuff back in the day. Vaughn, what up, Vaughn says, good morning, AD. I can't with these women on The View losing brain cells listening to them. But Trump pick for AG Pam Bondi is a beast. You notice how they don't want to talk about that, right? Biden said, I see you January 6th and raise you a war. That's a fact. Shout out to my dog, Mr. Law says, Anton, my sources say Kendrick dropped an album. Might be a topic for after hours. I'll talk about it. Victor Williams, I'll drop it. Buddy thought he ate with that junior pay as a senior. Bro, that ain't a flex, you a victim. I don't mean to laugh, but I mean knowledge is power. Seriously. High Tolerance says, remarkably audacious, take notes and make some winning moves, no proof required. Real talk. You ain't gotta press us. The blueprint is there. Shout out to my greatest student. The blueprint is there. Shout out to the social workers out in bag chasing and other professions. My dog Ray Sean is in the building. I love you, bro. CMJ says, I know a woman making $300,000 doing help desk coding, government contracting. How is that possible? I never knew. Mark the Guardian says, remember what happens on Earth stays on Earth, but they hear it in Mars. You know what I'm saying? Women just be saying anything, bro. Anyways, hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get to the last part of the show. I wanted to talk about Moolah, baby. I'm going to read y'all super chats, continue in a minute. Google Chrome. So the Department of Justice, which is one of the reasons why I was trying to understand how bloated is this department. The Department of Justice is obviously suing and bringing Google to the front of the congregation, and they're trying to say that they're a monopoly and they want to break up the monopoly. And one of the ways that they want to do it is to force Google to sell the Chrome browser. That's a big deal. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications.
We're following some breaking news overnight that could impact almost anyone who uses the internet. The Justice Department going to federal court hoping to force Google to make some major changes. NBC's business correspondent Brian Chung here with some details on this breaking news. Brian, what more can you tell us?
Yeah, well, good morning, Craig. I mean, imagine Google without Chrome or Android. That's what the Justice Department and a number of states proposed in court overnight, breaking up the big tech company by having Google sell its popular web browser Chrome and potentially its popular phone product Android, adding the company should be...
Come on now. Let me let y'all hear the rest of it.
Prohibited from buying companies to scale up its ad services and AI products. Now, this comes 3 months after a federal judge called Google a monopolist for defaulting its search engine on Chrome as well as Android phones, and taking issue with Google making deals with other companies like Apple to make Google search the default on iPhones, which allows the tech giant to gain more users and data to further entrench its dominance in the market. Now, in a response to the filing, Google called these new proposals extreme and wildly overbroad, adding that it would harm Americans and America's global technology leadership and that it would have to slow AI investment at a critical time. And just to give you some perspective here, Google Chrome has 3.45 billion users and controls about 2/3 of the global browser market, according to the website StatCounter. Now, as for the next steps here, Google has a month to file its own suggested fixes. The judge will hear arguments from both sides in April as and expected to rule by August. And Google, by the way, has vowed to appeal. So all of this, guys, far from over.
Major.
All right, so let's deep dive into it a little bit. I got Yahoo Finance to break down a little bit deeper into it. And on our next Stock Club, I'm going to talk about the ramifications of what could possibly happen, how that will affect the technology sector, and if this is something that we need to be worried about and making sure that we adjust our portfolios. Now, Google is not a part of my portfolio at the moment, but I do want to have a conversation about it in Stock Club. But let me give you a little bit more insight on that.
Google could be forced to break up. The Department of Justice is pushing for Google to divest its Chrome browser, plus divert any interest the tech giant has in search distribution products and search AI products. The formal request that comes after a ruling in August found the company illegally monopolized the search market. Yahoo Finance's senior legal reporter Alexis Keenan joins us now with more on the DJ's proposals and everything surrounding Google parent company Alphabet right now. Hey, Alexis.
Yeah, so this is a big court filing. We've been waiting for it. There were some leaks earlier in the week by a Bloomberg source. But this proposal by the DOJ, this is the formalized ask for Google's illegal monopolization of the search and search text advertising markets that came down in DC in a district court in August. The DOJ's proposals, what they really do is they center on search distribution. So you have to have that in the back of your mind, is how does Google get its search product out into...
Let me read this real quick. I'm gonna go back into it. Sometimes Anton is so negative. He never wants to admit he's wrong. A consultant can be a position within a firm. It is a position within a firm. Why would you speak to someone that way? Because I don't give up. All right, listen, let me rephrase it, because I've changed myself in 2024 and I'm moving into 2025 and we move in corporate. Because I don't give a freak. It just don't hit the same when I say it that way. But I know that they watch me in the churches and stuff like that, and they ask me to at least tone it down for the Millionaire Morning Show and y'all in corporate America. But I don't give a F. I don't care what people's thinking and how they feel. I'm not trying to make you feel better. I'm trying to give you a reality check. The only thing I care about is the truth. I don't care about your feelings. Why would you speak to someone that way? Because I want you to make $250,000 instead of making $80,000. Now, you care about how you feel, or you care about what your bank account look like? If your daddy and your mama would have talked to you the way that I'm talking to you, then you might not be in a position being underpaid and thinking that just because they gave you a title, that makes you correct in what you're saying. I'm not trying to make you feel good about yourself. I'm trying to help you to feed your family better. I want you to live the life that I live. I want you to live better than I live. I want you to be greater. I'm not trying to coddle you. Listen, if what I said offends you, then you don't need to be in corporate America in the first place, because it's way worse. What we say about you when you leave out of the interview is way worse than the advice that I'm giving you that's going to help you level up. You want the truth, or you want somebody to make you feel good? Is this about being right or wrong, or is this about getting a bag? Are you trying to debate with me about being right or wrong, or are you trying to get a bag? I tell you what. I got time today. I got a couple minutes. We're going to go over this Google thing, and this is just for people that think that I'm wrong when it comes to corporate America in this position. So whether you are the guy that said that he was making $80K as a senior consultant, or the person that said that I was wrong, go ahead. I'm going to allow for you to call in. Don't call in and say, Anton, I'm rocking with you. I think that you're right. I just want to give you your flowers. I don't want to hear none of that. There you go. And you don't even have to be on camera. All you got to do, that's for you. I'm not dropping a link in more than one time. Help me to understand where I'm wrong.
To the world as you go through these different asks. And I'm going to go through some of the main ones here. And you mentioned one already, big one. The DOJ wants Google to have to divest its Chrome browser. The browser holds 61% of the browser market, and also to not own any browsers for 5 years. There are also asks for Google to divest any interest at all in rival search products, as well as AI-based query products, a big one there. And they want them to do that within 6 months of whatever.
That would be absolutely devastating. Google is not a company. Google is not a company that can compete going forward in 2025 if the Justice Department was to ever to get what they want. And I'm not sure if this is a strategy as the big ask, like we like to say, so that Google can then negotiate with them to ultimately get to a better space. But this is absolutely out of control. No way in the world. Listen, the majority of Google's revenue is coming from AdSense that is then generated as a result of being shown on Chrome. That's the majority of their revenue is coming from AdSense. So when people then advertise and they want their stuff to show up first, when you put in certain keywords, and that has been the thing that is powering Google, then the majority of its revenue, overwhelmingly for the entirety of its existence, if you're telling them to sell the very product that allows for them to be successful, then there is no company anymore. There is no company. And then they want them to divest interest in the AI-based query products. So basically, Google's AI products, similarly to how Apple Intelligence is now going to be powering and be a part of everything that Apple does, and ChatGPT is now going to be powering everything that Microsoft is a part of. You're telling me that they're telling them to divest from these products that they've spent billions and billions of dollars investing in for research and development in order for them to be able to compete on an AI level, and they're still supposed to be competitive? Get the hell out of here, bro. That's crazy. You crazy. It's not even a company anymore after that.
Deal is finalized here. Also, there's a contingent divestment for Android, the operating system, and that would only come into play if other remedies are not effective. Now, what we were...
AdSense and Chrome is linked like that. Why do you think that they spend so much money giving Apple upwards of $20 billion a year for them to, by default, register, or for Google, when you put in a search query, when you open up any kind of browser or whatever, by default, it's going to go to Google. It's going to go to Chrome. It's going to go to use all of these browsers. It's going to go to that. By default, when you put in a search, it's going to go to google.com. Literally, the minute that you put anything inside of, whether you're using Safari or whatever, it's going to go to Google. And if Chrome is the most used browser, then that means that they would have to spend even more money than the $20 billion that they're using for Apple by default to go to Google, that allows for them to be able to generate the revenue that they're making from AdSense. AdSense is very much integrated into the Chrome browser. Think about it. If it's the most used browser, then how is it not generating the most revenue from AdSense itself? The first thing that shows is the sponsored posts from AdSense that then allows for, and if the advertisers are not complaining about it, then why are you complaining that it's a monopoly? AdSense does generate revenue regardless of browser, but AdSense generate the most revenue in Google Chrome because it is the most used browser. Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
Expecting in this case, and really that goes to the heart of this case, is an ask to not divest, but to end contracts that secure search, Google search, as the default on dozens of devices.
What's next? They're going to ask them to get rid of YouTube too?
Right, all kinds of mobile devices, laptop, desktops, etc. But that's mostly, if it happened, it would impact Apple. Why? Because Apple's on the take in these agreements for roughly about $20 billion a year.
Like I said,
that's the.
I don't see anybody calling in. Why those people ain't calling in so that they can hold me accountable for being wrong? Let me put that in the chat one more time.
Bulk of it, all told, with all of the devices included, it's about $26 billion a year. Now, those are 2022 numbers. Also in this request, for Google to have to sell its search data.
You can't steal their IP if you're acquiring smaller software companies. That's not stealing their IP. That's actually buying up the company. Come on, man. All right, let me stop.
That is huge for Google. That includes its indexing of its search engine. That includes a lot of the algorithms that it uses to provide what it thinks are quality searches. And Google has long protested this very strongly, saying that is our intellectual property. It would have to be paid for. Now, the DOJ says it would have to be offered as far as the index on a nominal cost basis for rivals and potential rivals. As far as ad data, that's the other part of this case, the search text advertising. They say, well, they want Google to give that away for free. So we can expect that on December 20th, a month from now, when Google will have an opportunity to put forth its suggestions for remedies, that they are going to push back on each and every one of these suggestions. In a statement on Monday, they did react to the leak saying
I don't
the DOJ...
see anybody in the back. So if he's saying that he's calling in, I don't see anybody. I don't believe that. So I'm going to put the link in the chat one more time. There you go. There's nothing ringing and there's nothing calling in. You can call in.
Continues to push what they called a radical agenda. They said the agenda would harm consumers, developers, and American technological leadership at the wrong time.
Yeah, I think that this is a mistake. It isn't preventing people from having choice. If you want to, you can go and download, I use both browsers. I use multiple different browsers. I use Firefox, I use Safari. I use Microsoft's browser. I don't even know what it's called. What is Microsoft's browser? Because I use it for corporate. You know what I'm saying? But come on, man. Come on, bro. See, Southland, I listen to you. Southland. Says, thank you for not using profanity because I'm one of the ones that watch you in church every day and I'm always nervous you might go there. I do not watch the night program so you can let it rip. I am not using profanity. I've been on top of it, Southland. I've been on top of it. Here on the Millionaire Morning Show, we've made the turn. And we're going to make more of an effort on the rest of our platforms to make the turn and the transition because we want to be better. We want to continue to, it's called Edge, you're right. We want to make the adjustment and we want to make the transition to be better, Southland Event Center. So thank you for listening to me in church. Thank you for holding me down and thank you for being a part of what we do over here on the Millionaire Morning Show. Yes, Anton is changing. Now, Monday night, but other than that, you know what I'm saying? We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out, Southland Event Center. We working on it. I got to work on my friends, Quentin. I got to work on my friend, Slimmy. Carrie is pretty good. Mika is pretty good. But Quentin and Slimmy, we're going to have to work on that. We working on that. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I don't see anybody calling. Let me drop that one more time for you. And I'm going to read the super chats. And I got to acknowledge a Cash App real quick also. So, give me a second. Gone Postal. Shout out to Gone Postal. I appreciate you, big dog. Thank you, my friend, for the salute. Thank you, Gone Postal. Fatir Wood says 80 is new hire for accountants, consultants, make more. That is true. Anton, black people pride is more important than the information. Shout out to you. Sean S. says, homie thought it was a flex. I make more as an admin assistant. We not dissing the fact that he made $80,000. There's nothing wrong with making $80,000. I'm kind of ragging on the idea that sometimes we need to take the information instead of trying to debate and qualify ourselves to be worthy of being a part of the conversation. If government can just steal what you built over the last 20 to 30 years, why would you want to innovate more? I agree. What in the World TV says 80, this is stock manipulation. Department of Justice will change over in January, will not be the focus then. The stock will go down a little, but once new leader of the Department of Justice, I got to find that out. There's no definitive position that this administration took when it came to breaking up Google and the monopoly because they asked him that during an economic forum and he didn't really speak a lot on it. And so I'm not so sure about it. I have taken that into consideration also. So, yeah, exactly, Azriel. We're not dissing him. We just want to let him know that they lowballed him and he can do better. All right. Well, again, I don't see anybody in the back. I dropped the link multiple different times. Shout out to my girl Molly. Y'all said she the female Anton. That's a beautiful thing. Hey, Apple, bro. I don't use Samsung or Apple anymore. Well, that's unfortunate for you. Anyways, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And if there's nothing else for us to be able to discuss, we will be on After Hours tonight. And it's going to be awesome. All right. So I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. We got to do better, y'all. We got to do better.